So you embark on a journey that takes you halfway around the world. Kind of probably felt like all the way around the world, but it didn't happen as a one, two, three, bam, you're there. There was actually a concept that was already underway in Ireland, I believe, that you eventually took to Africa with a friend of yours. What was that concept, and how did you plant that in Africa?
So I believe in life we have two choices. We can sit on the sidelines hoping that somebody else is going to do the heavy lifting, rooting for them, sometimes rooting against them, right? From the comfort of our bubbles and behind our screens. Or we can understand that if we really want to make positive, lasting change a reality, we need to become a part of the solution. And I kind of felt like while I never really thought I was sitting on the sidelines, I wasn't doing enough. And I had been in Costa Rica helping to set up a United Way office down there, which is really entrepreneurial, and learned a ton throughout the process. But I heard that a buddy of mine who I had overlapped with at Lehigh University was in Northern Ireland working with a program that would use the sport of basketball to get Protestant and Catholic kids in Belfast, this very divided city in this very divided country, meeting each other, finding common ground through sports, and hopefully over time becoming friends. My friend Sean had loved the idea, thought he could do it better, and thought he could do it on a global scale. And he wanted to bring the program to South Africa. So he had started that process, and I think it was on his first trip to South Africa. And I had heard that, and I emailed him. I didn't even know if he'd had an internet connection wherever he was. This was in the internet cafe days. We didn't even have phones. And I said, hey, it's been years since we've connected. I heard you're helping to start this really cool program. Would love to connect. And he was on his way back to DC, and we ended up sitting down for like a 4-hour lunch. He was telling me all about this program, all about his early experience in South Africa, the power of sports to unite. And I think I resigned from the United Way that very next day, with nothing but love, but understanding that this was closer to the alignment to my purpose, to my mission in life, to understand why we're divided and find creative ways to bridge those divides. Yeah. So I got with him and his older brother at the time, and really dove in deep to launching this program that at the time was called Playing for Peace, and the name changed and it's called Peace Players today. But the idea was really simple. We would go to really divided, war-torn countries, and we would use sports to get kids from both sides of the conflict, meet each other, find common ground, and hopefully over time becoming friends. So, Chris, we raised $8,000 from friends and family, which was enough money to get back to South Africa right after the fall of apartheid. And kind of showed up to South Africa, I want to say without the foggiest idea of what we were doing, but really driven by a couple things. One was a deep understanding that this concept, this idea of sports to unite, wasn't ours, that it had always existed. Think about the Olympics for hundreds or thousands of years that have brought athletes and civilizations together. And you can list hundreds of examples of that. So it was really important that we weren't showing up to South Africa claiming that this idea was ours, right? The second really important thing was not showing up to South Africa saying that as a couple white guys, we had the answers to solve centuries, generations, decades of war, hatred, division, and violence. Absolutely. Our job as social entrepreneurs was to show up and be quietly behind the scenes, helping the people of South Africa mold this program in the way that would resonate with them the most and have the deepest impact. So, with this humble approach to how we were showing up, really clear that the idea wasn't ours and that it was really moldable at the time, the program really started to take off. We had thousands of kids trying to join the program. We had dozens of schools who wanted to participate, white schools and black schools. We had countless coaches coming out of the woodworks to coach. We actually called them change agents because they were so much more than just basketball coaches. And they weren't showing up to coach the sport of basketball, which is a relatively new sport in South Africa at the time. They were showing up because this new sport of basketball was being reimagined so that done differently with a completely different approach would have a shot at changing the way that their country worked, right? And they would be in the driver's seat of what that change would look and feel like.
Yeah.
So, the program is just propelled forward faster than any of us could ever have imagined. The success of the program turns out cost a lot of money. And as busy as we were raising funds other places, the bank account in South Africa was getting really low. And one morning we get a call, and it's Nelson Mandela's foundation. And the woman on the other end of the line says, President Mandela is a huge believer in the power of sports to unite. And he's heard about your program and he wants to become your organization's largest supporter. So we go from very little credibility, a lot of momentum, and then Mandela's money, but most importantly, his name and recognition behind us. And the floodgates were just opened, right? We were invited to the program in South Africa, exploded. We were invited to replicate the model all over in the world, in the Middle East with Israeli and Palestinians, in Northern Ireland. We continued the program with Protestants and Catholics, and Cyprus and Yemen, right? Fast forward to today, the program is worked in over 22 countries, the 22 of the most divided countries on the planet. Worked with over 100,000 kids, trained over 2,000 volunteers, coaches, change agents, and has just become such a global movement for good that it was fascinating to be along for the ride during the growth of that organization.